Now, if I told most of my friends to watch a Maid Café show, they'd roll their eyes and say, I don't want to see the same thing we've seen time and time again with a bunch of fan service and cliches. Hell, if most of my friends told me to watch a Maid Café show, I generally would say no as well. So now the question is, why am I here talking about Blendess, a tropey Maid Café show? And that's because in its 12-episode run, I found something quite fun and charming here. I decided to give it a 1-episode test because I sometimes like to step outside my comfort zone once in a while, and this was one of those times that it paid off so much that it became one of the most entertaining shows from the fall 2017 anime season for myself. Blendess has a pretty basic setup at first glance. We follow a group of characters who all work at a maid cafe where the waitresses all have a role that they play, and then they have the manager who is obsessed with anime and manga, and the male cook who is basically the sane one of the group. We have seen this, I know. But where the anime quickly takes a different turn is instead of making all these girls just their tropes 24/7, is most actually don't fit into the roles that they play. Now take the main lead Mayaka, who is this sadistic girl in the cafe. She is arguably one of the nicest in the entire cast, but because of the menacing look in her eyes, she fits into her role so perfectly that she has no choice but to embrace the role, even though she does try to run away from it, which only ever results in more sadistic shenanigans taking place. We have the tsundere trope role, but like Mayaka, she doesn't also fit into her role outside of work, and many times she breaks her character when trying to interact with the customers, especially when video games are involved. Now sure, there are other characters who fall pretty in line to their roles, but there's enough variety that watching this anime I felt interested each and every episode, because unlike most anime that have this just rehashing of the same formula time and time again, there was enough variety to make this feel almost new. On top, most of the cliches only come out when they are playing and interacting with the customers. Most of the anime though is not focused on the customers, but rather focused on the employees interacting with one another, which allows for the show to not just feel like the same tropey garbage we see time and time again. Instead, it has this constant state of fun, charming, and comedic moments that sometimes even make fun of itself or the characters' roles. Having this not actually just be a watch cute girls fulfill roles in a cafe, but rather watch these girls have fun working in the shop and have a wide range of hilarious scenes together is a much better selling point than most of these shows. There's this issue with anime that just want to take what we've seen before and slap a new coat of paint on it and sell it like it's brand new. Battle harems are some of the worst culprits for this practice, and most anime fans, myself included, early on would watch the same show 10 times over with different coats of paint because anime rarely delivers a full adaptation, so we always want to crave more of the same. But after years and years of watching anime, I grew out of accepting this practice, and now I look for even the slightest of change from the norm at the very least. And this is where Blendess did deliver for me. There's enough divergence in how these girls play their roles while still being a bit tropey that most could find something fun here, which the amazing comedy helps tremendously. I love comedy anime, but to make me laugh out loud is a challenge, but each episode had a few moments where I actually was chuckling out loud, and even as the season was drawing to a close, I was still finding new scenes to laugh at, and rarely did I think they were just trying to reuse the same joke time and time again. From the manager always going head over heels for Mayaka, to how the girls would interact with customers, it had so many standout fun moments. I wanted another episode every time I finished one, so when the season ended, I was pretty bummed out that there wasn't just one more episode. But past the fun comedy, there is a couple of well thought out character stories. The primary focus of the season is Mayaka and the manager, who both like one another, but Mayaka being a bit more oblivious, she doesn't quite understand that his affection for her is more than just employee of the month. And the two sort of romance-like story and how it starts building up in the season was quite great. Sure, it doesn't end anywhere specifically, it's not a full adaptation, but even with all that said, I still appreciated this extra layer that helped make this feel like more than just a comedy at times. And how the show does end is a decent enough stopping point that nothing completely feels wasted either. There was a ton of comedy with their interactions, but I also felt like there was a lot of heart here as well. Even the cook started to get his own romance-like story starting to build up, which I hope we get more seasons, so I can see where that side story could go, but if not, this was another extra layer that I also appreciated. Having it not just rely on the central two characters' growing bond, but a few different characters' growing friendships and other romantic-esque relationships, it helped to keep each episode feeling new and interesting. Now, a pretty popular anime among anime fans is Ouran High School Host Club, an anime I reviewed but wasn't completely fond of, but I understood why people enjoyed it. For me, this was my Ouran. It had many of the same ideas that Ouran went for, but it just clicked with my own personal interests much more than that other anime did. And for many, they may watch Blendess and not see why I enjoyed the characters or comedy as much as I did. But the great thing about anime is even when we have so many of the same kinds of anime, the anime that do try to shift the balance even slightly help to stick out, so years down the line, they might still be watched by newer anime fans. This isn't a masterpiece by any means, it never tried to be, and something anime fans tend to forget is you don't need to try to be deep and complex every single time. It's okay to just want to be a fun, comfy, tropey Maid Café show that doesn't just want to be panty jokes and soulless characters, but rather a decent sized cast of real people all working at this little shop, all building friendships and other relationships. And this is why Blend S sticks out from 2017 for me, even if it just slightly shifts away from the norm. Sometimes that can be enough to stick out. There are other anime like it, sure, but for me this is the one that clicked the most, especially with how it never made the customers interacting with the girls the focus, but rather interacting between the workers was. When you look at the voice acting as a whole, most people will be pretty satisfied with all these characters. They fit their roles quite well, and personally I never thought to myself this was lackluster or underwhelming while watching. Though I will say, after completing this anime and looking back, the fact that minus the manager and Micah, I personally didn't think any of the characters went above or beyond from what we've seen in the past, which truthfully isn't an issue. I mean, the entire anime I watched and I had a blast and I loved all these characters, but I think maybe just stepping outside the box just only slightly, just with how some of the performances were done in the Japanese audio, might have elevated the series even higher than I already view it. And like I said, watching I had no issues, just reflecting back on it after I've completed it, it does make me wish that some of the performances maybe weren't as typical as I expected. But nonetheless, they all deliver their lines pretty damn well. I think everyone in the anime community as well probably has heard at least the first 10 seconds of the opening theme, because what other anime in fall 2017 had the memeiest of OPs? And truthfully, the opening and ending songs are quite good, but in terms of the rest of the OST, personally I found it non-existent. I know it was there sometimes, but I can't point to a single episode where I found it to be something that enhanced my viewing experience. Though in comedy anime that isn't a huge issue like it normally is for me, because all the voice actors deliver their lines fairly well, but don't expect to come out wanting to download anything maybe past the OP and ED for the show, because you really won't. But where the soundtrack didn't wow me, there was numerous times where the sound effects did, which is important for comedic scenes, and this anime delivers on that flawlessly. Even though some of the aspects of the sound department didn't necessarily go where I wanted it to, it doesn't change the fact that as a whole, it did exactly what it needed to. The thing that I love the most when it comes to the designs of this anime is the expressive and hilarious facial expressions. And not just from the main lead Micah, every character has glorious moments of pure comedy etched into their face. And this was a big part of why I laughed so much. So much of the humor comes from these over-the-top reactions, from sadistic looks to crushed defeat. Comedy anime typically know how to make these reactions funny, but I think Blend S did it slightly better than most. Even the character designs were fairly well done. Though many are typical enough, I never really just felt like they were a cut and paste from past anime, which helps them to stick out from the crowd. But the shop they all work at is probably my favorite design in the anime, which might sound weird to some. I mean, all these character designs, my favorite was the cafe, but it didn't really feel like the usual cafes I see in anime. It actually had quite a bit of personality behind it. And even some of the general background locations were given a surprising amount of detail no matter how little they are actually in the episode. I appreciate this kind of detail because very few series go that extra mile to help sell their worlds as living, breathing places rather than just set A and set B. I think most modern day anime fans will have a pleasant viewing experience from all the amazing animation used to the comedic moments to the constant level of polish found in the art overall. It's easy to look at any anime and say, what could anyone love about this? I myself do this more than I should. But sometimes the simplest of shows can succeed in the most brilliant of ways, which I think Blend S does. I adored this show, and the main issue I have is not every scene are a smash hit for comedy or character progression, but that's okay. This was a show to take the general style and genre of a show you typically see each year and shift the dynamic and focus slightly enough to keep old fans of the style happy while bringing in some new ones without relying too heavily on cheap fanservice bait shots. Yes, they are there, but not enough to be a glaring issue. And that's why I award Blend S my seal of approval, because I actually think this is a fun anime that does more right than wrong. And though it's no masterpiece, it excelled at what it went for more times than not. Now, the one show I will recommend to you is, if you want something similar, is obviously Ouran High School Host Club. Basically take Blend S and make all the cute girls cute boys, and there you have it. Though I wasn't the biggest fan, it has many similarities to Blend S, and though the comedy didn't land for me like it did in Blend S, for many this is a hilarious gem from the early 2000s, so if you haven't gotten around to it, give it a go. But that's all for this review. Please let me know your thoughts on Blend S down in that comment section below, and be sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. And if you like what you see here and you want to help support what I do, then maybe consider heading on over to my Patreon as well. So until next time everyone, please take care, and you all have a good one.